Spider-Man Far From Home is directed by Jon Watts and stars Tom Holland as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, who following the events of Avengers Endgame must step up to the plate as a hero when new elemental threats start to threaten the world that has now been changed forever. So before I dive into the review, I would like to address something that is going to be changing in the channel going forward. You probably would have noticed quite a lot of changes on the channel as of late in regards to the design of the channel and also the type of videos and the way the videos are being made. And I also want to address how it's going to be changed for the reviews. Now, this is just going to be a simple, basic review. Unlike the reviews you've seen over the past couple of videos, such as my Men in Black review and my Toy Story review, where I did more essay-style type videos, this is just going to be a standard review that I would typically do. However, I want to introduce a new style to specifically make these videos a bit more individual and to make them a bit more unique. And that particular style is these reviews from now on are going to be split down the middle. And what I mean by that is one half of the review is going to be talking about the critical aspects of the film, really delving into, how I feel the film is from an objective, critical standpoint. But then the second half of the review is going to be much more focused on the enjoyment standpoint of the movie. How enjoyable is it? How fun is it? And how worth watching is it? And I'm going to introduce my new rating system at the end of the video, where you will see how I will rate this movie from an objective standpoint and from a subjective standpoint. So with all that out of the way, if that all makes sense to you guys, and I'm sure it'll make more sense as the review goes on, but without further ado, let's get into my review for Spider-Man Far From Home. So starting off with the positives for this movie, I have to talk about the performances overall. In particular, Tom Holland, who reprises his role as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is phenomenal in this movie. This is potentially his best role yet, especially his best Spider-Man role. I really enjoyed his mannerisms in this movie. He still continues to be that young blood who really brings so much passion and youth and energy to this Spider-Man role that has made him so iconic instantly. And I really love how he's managed to continue that energy from his first appearance in Captain America Civil War all the way up to Spider-Man Far From Home. It's a really great Spider-Man performance and a really great Peter Parker performance, and there's a particular scene, which obviously this review will contain no spoilers, but there is a particular scene between Peter and Happy Hogan which was just brilliant, and I think it really displayed Tom Holland's talent in this film. Also, I'd like to shout out Zendaya in this movie. I think she did a wonderful job in this movie as well. The chemistry between her and Tom Holland is undeniable. You can tell that they are really close friends in real life, and you can see that in this movie. It bleeds through the script and it bleeds through the screen. On top of that, I really love what they did with MJ in this movie. MJ gets a lot more to do here than she got in Spider-Man Homecoming, and I think that it really proves that Zendaya is an extremely talented actress because she gets much more to play with and a lot more screen time and a lot more dialogue, and it makes it a whole film more beneficial. Plus, I really loved the storytelling aspects of this film, in particular the road trip element that this movie has, because what is really refreshing and very different about Far From Home in comparison to other MCU films is that this film kind of takes a road trip style film approach. You kind of go from one location to the next location to the next location, and the movie is always moving, and I really appreciate that because I think it really helps for the pacing. I've seen a lot of people complain that the first act of this movie is kind of slow. I do agree with that to a certain degree, but I don't feel like it's as slow as some other movies and even some other MCU films. I feel like the Spider-Man Far From Home film actually really does a really good job of keeping the movie going at a pretty steady pace, especially because of the constant change in location. And again, it keeps everything fresh, keeps everything unique. And given the fact that Spider-Man is a character that is so ingrained in the city of New York, to take him away from that, again, I think was something very different and very refreshing for this film, especially when the big final battle in this movie takes place in a completely different location. It really allowed them to play around with Spider-Man's abilities and his powers, and that, again, I really appreciated. Speaking of the action sequences, they are absolutely phenomenal in this movie. Maybe some of my favourite action sequences in the MCU. I feel like they have a really unique sensibility about them, and more specifically, I really enjoyed how they were really able to put across web slinging. Web slinging is something that has been very, very hit and miss with the Spider-Man films sometimes. Some movies do a really good job of displaying it. I personally felt like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 did a really good job of showing web slinging. I mean, say what you want about that movie, but I feel like the web slinging was pretty strong in that film. But I feel like here in Far From Home, especially in the couple of the battle scenes, it really displays how kind of intuitive web slinging can be and how useful it can be as a battle tactic as well as just using it as a traversal tactic. I think it was a really good job of showing how they did that, and I really appreciated, how the camera was pulled in tight and you were really able to experience it as if you were Spider-Man, and that was really, really cool. Because normally web slinging in these Spider-Man things, a lot of the time the video games do it much, much better. Like if you play Spider-Man PS4 or even the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in games, they do a really good job of web slinging, but this is probably the best representation of web slinging I've seen for Spider-Man on film. And also, sticking with the action sequences, there are some really visually interesting things they do in this film. Again, I'm going to try and stay away from spoilers as much as I can, because you really should go into this movie knowing nothing. This movie is about as spoilery as Endgame, honestly, but there's just this visual style to the action sequences, and that's all I'll say on that, just because I don't want to delve any more into it. But what I will compare it to is, if, sticking with the MCU, if you remember some of the action sequences in movies like Ant-Man or Doctor Strange, you can compare it to kind of scenes like that, and it's really visually interesting. Also, the humor was pretty on point in this movie, and that really, really got to me, because the humor is something that, the MCU is known for. We are very much known for the humor at this point, and I feel like with this film, just like Homecoming, it's absolutely hilarious at times. There are some jokes that really land. Not all of them. I feel like some of the jokes that come from Martin Starr's character are not the best, and I feel like some of them don't entirely land, and there are a few jokes here and there that obviously don't land, but for the most part, I think they do a really good job of hitting with the audience, and me personally, I found them very, very funny, and I think overall this movie does a really good job of showing them these jokes in a really good light, and again, most of the time they really do shine through. And my favourite thing by far in this movie was definitely Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio. I feel like that this character is so well put together in this movie. I feel like his introduction was perfect. I loved the way his character went through the story, and what they did with his character was really pleasing to me as a fan of the character. I really appreciated what they did with him, and Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is easily one of the best we have seen in the MCU. Jake Gyllenhaal manages to bring his quirkiness to it. If you've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in movies before, you know what he's like, and in this movie he brings that sense and style to the MCU through Mysterio, and it's so much fun to watch. He's a brilliant character in this movie. I love what they did with his character, and the fact that they managed to do a character like Mysterio, who is such a silly villain in the comics, such justice on film, is super impressive, and as a comics fan, I really, really appreciated how they did it, especially his costume as well. One of the most ridiculous costumes, probably maybe the most ridiculous costume in Marvel Comics, is represented so well in Far From Home. I do have a couple of negatives though. For one, there is a particular subplot in this movie with this romantic competition. Like, there's this new character introduced who is kind of like a romantic interest for MJ and is competition for Peter. As soon as this plot line was introduced, I kind of threw my eyes up and sighed, because I didn't need it in the movie. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything. It's not, something that will take you out of the film. It's just a scene and a plot line that I just didn't particularly need, and I felt like it led to a scene that wasn't particularly that great or interesting, and I felt like overall that storyline could have been plucked out of the movie and it would have been no different. Also, in regards to the villains of this movie, again, no spoilers, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's a particular decision to do with the villains in this film that I didn't love. It's not terrible, I don't think it's a really bad decision. It's just a decision that felt a little bit familiar to me as an MCU fan, and I didn't particularly enjoy that they went down that route again, as it felt a bit too familiar for me, as it was kind of already done in another film. But make sure you stick around for the post-credit scenes of this movie, because oh my god, they are mind-blowing. They are possibly the most mind-blowing post-credit scenes that the MCU has ever done, and I'm not exaggerating there. They seriously might be. They are insane in this film. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it again. No spoilers, I'm not talking about it. I will be doing a spoiler review, but my god, the post-credit scenes, make sure you stick to the very, very end, because you will not be disappointed. So now moving over to the enjoyment portion of the review, this is where I'm literally just going to talk at you guys and just let you know, is this film worth watching? Is it a good time? And to that I have to say, absolutely. This review just, if it doesn't already sum it up already, I will do it right now. This is an absolute blast of a film. It's a great addition to the MCU. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's a big summer action blockbuster, and 2019 has been an extremely disappointing year as far as big blockbusters go. It hasn't felt like summer movie season. There hasn't been a film until now where I've really felt like, yes, that was a summer movie. And, like I say, the fact that Far From Home was able to do that and bring that feeling back, it really made me feel like we were in summer movie season. Like I say, we've only just entered July, so we've still got really another 2 months to go. But the fact that May was such a disappointing month, it felt so refreshing to have a film like Far From Home, which really drove home that summer movie season feeling. And with that, I can recommend this movie to literally anybody, because you can go into this movie, as long as you've seen Endgame, you can go into this movie and just enjoy it and watch all the action unfold, and you'll have a great time with it. And I think the movie is such, great flick on an entertainment standpoint that you'll have a great time regardless. This is a movie where you can literally just get some popcorn, get a drink, shove it all in your face, and just enjoy the movie, and you'll have a great time. That's the exact kind of movie this is, and especially if you're a Marvel fan, if you're an MCU fan, you will appreciate the movie even more, and I feel like from an enjoyment standpoint, this film is up there. Plus, believe it or not, as a big cinema fan and as a big cinema goer, I don't actually get popcorn that much. I'm not a big popcorn guy, but even I got popcorn with this movie, so if that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what will. So moving over to the rating, I'm going to give the critical rating for Spider-Man Far From Home an 8 out of 10. I feel like the film is really strong, really positive. Like I say, a few negatives that I didn't particularly love about the movie, with a couple of wasted storylines, and again, something to do with the villains of the film that I didn't particularly love, but overall, the movie has great action, great performances. It's a great addition to the MCU, and I think as an MCU fan, and also just as a Spider-Man fan, as a superhero movie fan, this is just a great, entertaining film and a really nice addition to the MCU and a great closing chapter to Marvel's Phase 3. And for my entertainment rating, I'm going to give it a watch. This is a new little rating that I'm going to introduce for the entertainment. As you just saw, the critical rating is between 1 to 10. Is it a 1 out of 10? Is it a 10 out of 10? It's in between there somewhere. But for the entertainment rating, there's only 2 ratings it can get. Give it a watch or give it a miss. And for this, it's definitely give it a watch. This is a really great film, really entertaining, and I believe you can bring anybody to this movie, just stuff popcorn in your face, enjoy the action, enjoy everything that unfolds on screen, because you will not regret it. Spider-Man Far From Home is a great cinematic experience that you do not want to miss in theaters. So thank you guys for tuning into my review of Spider-Man Far From Home. If you've seen the movie, make sure you let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. The movie seems to be fairly divisive, so I'm interested to see what you guys think about it. And also make sure you stick around to the channel for lots more Spidey content coming up over the next week or so. I'm going to have a Spider-Man ranking video, my MCU ranking video, and also a Spider-Man Far From Home spoiler talk, which will all be coming out by the end of the week, hopefully, if I can get my act together. So make sure you guys let me know in the comments as well what you think of this new review style. I know it's a little bit rough around the edges in this review. This is my first time kind of doing it, so I'm still kind of workshopping it a little bit and still trying to get it all, all the kinks ironed out. But if you guys enjoy this new review style of the critical and enjoyment standpoints, make sure you let me know and give the video a thumbs up, and it'll be awesome. And with all that said, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews and movie related videos from me, be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again next time.